Welcome to part 2, and I have to say, this is the part where the film really starts to get fragmented. I had said that all of these individual storylines are connected in terms of theme, and I'll explain what I mean in a bit, but here we have the actual stories getting farther and farther away from each other, and mostly farther from the point. Case and point, after taking down Electro, Peter then goes back to his place of residence, and kind of acts like the whole encounter never happened. And you remember back when I said that the stupid Peter's parents story not only persists, but also gets worse? Well, here it is. Immediately, what Peter starts thinking about after having just thwarted a big electric supervillain is the mystery surrounding his missing parents. What? Isn't that just a tad unrelated to what just happened? And not just in terms of the story either. Structurally speaking, we the audience were just introduced to a new and powerful player in this whole thing, and now we're supposed to switch tracks to something that had barely been brought up before now? We just had a big build-up to a new villain in an explosive action fight. Why the fuck are you going to segue into an unrelated and abysmal lame orphan plot?
When my folks left me at the orphanage 10 years ago, they left a note saying that they'd come back to get me as soon as they could. And they kept the other half of this old locket, so I know them when they came. I'm gonna find them someday, Mr. Warbucks. I'm gonna have a regular mother and father, like a regular kid. I am.
So while that thing am happening, things are getting progressively worse for Harry. See, Harry has some kind of weird virus that is apparently genetic. It killed his father off in the beginning, and now it's in the stages of killing him. But in researching a possible cure in the Osborn database, he comes across info that leads him to believe that Spider-Man's blood might hold the key to saving him. As he figures out what to do with this information, Peter is at home, now trying to figure out how to make his webbing withstand electricity, as that element caused him some problems in the previous Electro fight. Well, okay, at least we're getting back to that issue after an enormous segue, but may I ask why he's trying to figure this out? Honestly, the first time I saw this, I didn't even realize this is what he was doing at first. I mean, is he expecting another attack from this guy? Electro seems pretty well contained at the moment. Is he just doing this on the off chance that he will encounter him again? Does he maybe want to follow up with what they did with Electro after the fight and maybe see if he is still a threat? And while we're at it, what the hell did they do with Electro afterwards anyway? Well, it turns out he's being held at Oscorp. What the hell? You mean the police or maybe the military didn't want to take him in or something? How in the world did a corporation get away with this guy without any actual law enforcement having something to say about it, or at least following up on what's happening to him? I mean, an electric-powered man seems like something you'd want to keep tabs on, right? But no, apparently Oscorp just took him and nobody else ever thought twice about this.
I'm gonna kill the light. Everyone in the city is gonna know how it feels to live in my world. A world without power. A world without mercy. A world without Spider-Man.
Yeah, villain stuff, whatever. So meanwhile, Harry calls upon Peter to set up a meeting between Harry and Spider-Man. Harry thinks that Spidey's self-healing properties can help him and wants his blood to try it out.
I don't think you can just set up a van and have him donate. I mean, I'm sure he's sensitive about people shoving needles and
Oh, sensitive, okay. Well, then maybe you could just sensitively tell me where he is, and I will go ask him myself. Just say yes. Don't turn your back on me!
I don't want to end up like my father, Peter.
Please. Peter, please. I can't.
All of these storylines may be getting farther apart from one another, but what struck me here is that the good ones still remain good on their own. I like this a lot. I like how Harry isn't just an automatic villain. I like how he's just a scared kid that doesn't want to die. I like how he's a person. He honestly doesn't have any nefarious intentions towards Spider-Man. He sincerely wants his blood just to survive. But Peter is conflicted. He doesn't know what his blood would do to Harry. It might make him better, or it could turn him into something much worse. It's another conflict where neither one is obviously in the right, and some negative consequence will be had for both parties, no matter what they do. Still, Peter agrees to set up the meeting. Meanwhile, Gwen gets involved in a subplot where she learns about a cover-up that doesn't really go anywhere, but it does facilitate some more nice moments between these two. After which, for fuck's sake, we get back to the stupid orphan plot. Peter goes to Aunt May directly this time about the whole thing, and the scene between Peter and May is nice at least, as she has a heart-to-heart about why his parents are such a sensitive topic, and why she hasn't been particularly forthcoming about them.
I was the one who wiped your nose and made you brush your teeth and do your homework, who washed your dirty underwear. Me, your stupid, non-scientific aunt, who doesn't know how to make ends meet, who has to take nursing classes with 22-year-old kids so I can pay for you to go to college. And I don't know how to do this without Ben. I don't know how. And you're dreaming about your perfect father who was never here. No. No, I won't tell you. You're my boy. As far as I'm concerned, you're my boy. And I won't hurt you.
I'm your boy. You're my everything. You're enough. You're more than enough. That's not what it's about. Don't get that twisted.
And this is what I meant when I said that all of these storylines are linked in theme. It is the theme of being let down by someone that you used to feel like you could count on. Peter feeling let down by his parents, Gwen feeling let down by Peter, Max feeling let down by Spider-Man, Harry feeling let down by everyone, and now Aunt May feeling let down by herself. The conversation gives Peter the impression that his parents may have fled because they were dirty and selling secrets to others, but he just can't accept that. Nevertheless, it fills him with doubt. So Spider-Man finally has his meeting with Harry. And you remember what Harry said? That he just wanted to ask Spider-Man for his blood? Well, guess what he does? He asks him. He didn't have some kind of devious trap waiting for him. He makes no attempt to take it by force. He just sits down like a person and asks him. This would have been surprising and impressive to me on its own, but I had gone into this movie hearing about how all these villains were just shoehorned in and created automatically. And upon seeing this scene, I wanted to blurt out, where? This is character establishment, not villain establishment. Harry isn't a villain. He's just, once again, a scared kid who doesn't want to die. And when Spider-Man turns him down, it's all too understandable why Harry gets upset. So far, Harry hasn't wanted anything from anyone, and he hasn't asked anything of anyone. Yet he was still denied again and again. And the one time he asks for that thing that might save his very life, he's been denied. Who among us wouldn't feel betrayed by the world after all this? So after this, Peter has a bit of an exposition dump to Gwen when she stops him and tells him that she's been accepted to Oxford, which unfortunately means that she is going to have to relocate to England. So when it comes to the issue of staying with Gwen or not, it seems that the decision is being made for him, but he still has reservations. Unfortunately, this again segues into more bullshit as Peter learns of a scavenger hunt-style mystery that leads him to an old subway station where we apparently learned that when Father Parker was trying to complete the upload on the wacky wobbly plane from hell, it uploaded a video only to this one computer in a secret underground subway lab that everyone just forgot about, apparently. Forgetting about the fact that that upload now seems really impossible, why only upload the video here?
My name is Richard Parker. Whatever lies will be told about me, I would like the world to know the truth.
Yeah, but you didn't send this to the world, did you, genius? You sent it to this one particular terminal and apparently left Easter egg hunt-style clues behind so that Peter could find it? And not only that, but here's the mystery that is revealed here. Parker and Osborn were working on secret shit, but Osborn wanted to use it all for nefarious ends. Parker didn't like that, so he quit the project and fled, only to be eliminated by Oscorp. To quote the great Ben Yahtzee Croshaw once again, "That's the mystery? I assumed that much." And what is Peter supposed to do with this information other than just feel good about the fact that his father wasn't dirty? The whole thing was just a sloppy, slapped-together dead end that doesn't make any sense any way you think about it. So after all this crap, Harry is in trouble once again. He goes digging through Oscorp documents only to discover info about their holding Max, when the suits suddenly reveal that they've been framing him for murder and for a cover-up of said murder. So once again, I guess law enforcement just took their word for it that Max was dead. Anyway, Harry's reaction to this once again goes back to how he is a real person and not just a cardboard cutout villain. He is appalled by what Oscorp is doing.
You are experimenting on people in there.
Progress has its stepping stones. Now, in light of your deceptive criminal actions, you've been, how do I put this gently, fired.
You are not going to bury me too.
Looks to me like you're halfway in the ground already. You're going to die a horrible death. Like your father. The difference is, no one is going to miss you.
I have to ask again, how is this automatic villainy? Harry started out and continues to be a good person, avoiding nefarious actions every chance he gets. All the kid did was try to regain some semblance of a normal life and have a life to begin with. And even after this betrayal, he still doesn't become a villain. Instead, he breaks his way into a holding cell and releases Electro so that he can get him into the secret vault he learned about. Again, still just trying to figure out a cure and get to the bottom of Oscorp's plots. After that, he goes down there, finds the secret stuff and uses it, and only now does he become a villain of any kind. After being pushed around, spat on by everybody close to him, and had his reputation ground through the dirt, as well as now being influenced by drugs that heighten all those negative feelings tenfold. That's a character naturally developing into a villain. This wasn't an automatic anything. Especially considering that they only had one movie to do this, I was surprised by how much Harry's turn to the dark side was this natural at all. So anyway, meanwhile, Gwen is off to the airport to start her new life in England when Peter finally makes his decision. And this time, no one, not even her father's ghost, influences that decision. He chooses Gwen. He chooses to be with her despite the risks. After which Electro attacks once again. Peter tries desperately to keep Gwen out of the conflict, but she persists in trying to help, and the two work together to try to stop Electro from doing Electro things. And then they do. So here's a quick rundown of everything Electro did in the film. He liked Spider-Man, became a villain, shot lightning, got captured, escaped, shot lightning again, and died. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Fortunately, we actually get something good when he's out of the picture. Harry arrives to find Peter and Gwen, and he now knows that Peter is Spider-Man. That someone who claimed to be his friend was the very person who denied him a chance at life in the first place. If Peter had just given him his blood, he might not have become what he is now. And that realization, combined with the drugs, or whatever it was in that thing, and all the horrible things that happened to him, sends him over the edge. And he attacks the one thing he knows Peter cares about. Gwen. Now we come to the grand finale, and I want to clear something up real quick, as this is a scene that I've praised several times in other videos. You see, Gwen Stacy is about to die, and I simply love the way this death was handled, as not only does it tie into a lot of previously established elements, but it ends the movie on a tragic note. Peter didn't win anything through Gwen's death. Her death wasn't a part of him saving the city or thwarting a plot. She just died because she was in harm's way thanks to him. That's a bold, gutsy thing to work into your story, and it's something that other films haven't had the courage to do. But after giving this ending so much praise, I received a lot of comments telling me that what I didn't know is that Gwen Stacy's death wasn't the screenwriter's idea at all. This was a seminal moment in the comics, and this ending only exists thanks to those writers. Well, it may surprise you, and it actually kind of surprises me, to know that I actually did know Gwen Stacy died in the comics. Not because I've read it, I haven't, but because I used to watch the cartoon series, and there was an event that happened there that I was also very impressed with, but that a friend of mine told me time and again was reworked from this moment in the comic that he held in a lot of esteem. The thing is, though, my praise for this scene wasn't for the writers coming up with this idea from scratch. That was absolutely the work of whoever wrote that particular comic, and they deserve all the credit for this idea's inception. They didn't have to use this, you guys. They chose to take one of the most meaningful parts of the source material and use it to conclude their film. That's what I praise them for. How is this anything but a good thing? And it's all the more impressive considering who wrote this. The screenwriters for ASM2 also wrote Star Trek Into Darkness, a film which they also tried to take a meaningful moment in the Star Trek lore and run with it. The difference there is that they really just mimicked that event, and so it came off as a one-to-one knockoff. This event is exactly what a comic book adaptation should be, true to the spirit of the source material, but still its own unique work tailored to the themes and events of the film. Peter fights to protect Gwen, but every step of the fight puts her at even greater risk. That one shake of the head right there is what separated this from other grand superhero finales that deal with a girl in distress for me. Gwen isn't screaming. She isn't shouting for someone to help her. She is simply noticeably and visibly scared. In fact, the whole thing is rather unceremonious and real. Peter fights off Harry while trying to keep a hold of Gwen as the clock literally ticks down to her death. And suddenly, Gwen's graduation speech about time and about life creep into the subtext as these are her last moments. Finally, the clock shatters, completing the arc which began with the completed working clock we saw in the opening. And once again, as Gwen falls to her death, there are no screams. Only a look, a realization that Peter's fears are now being realized. Peter tries desperately to get to her and to save her, shooting a web which mimics a reaching hand, which is a little too on the nose for me, to be honest, but barely, just barely, he doesn't save her. Much of this film got disjointed as it went on, but this didn't. It managed to deliver a meaningful ending that tied in beautifully with the imagery and the dialogue that had come before. And now Peter realizes that Gwen is dead because of the decision he made to be with her. And all those images of her dead father are like salt on a wound, as those subconscious warnings turned out to be justified. And it was Peter, only Peter, that failed to heed them. Yeah, you're not laughing at Ghost Dennis Leary now, are you? Oh, you are, aren't you? You smartass. In my time reviewing superhero films, I am used to seeing average endings to some pretty stellar movies. But this might be the first time I have encountered a stellar ending to an average film, which doesn't quite elevate the rest of it to greatness, but was very impressive nonetheless. And it only gets better, or should I say worse, as Peter stands over the grave that he put her in, and stays there for many, many months. All the things going on in his mind is left for us to interpret, all the guilt and regret, and what this will all mean for him going forward. And I have a recommendation to anyone who decides to watch this movie again. Turn it off right here. This is where the film should have ended, with him standing over Gwen's grave, and what this will all mean left for us to ponder as we wait for the next movie. Unfortunately, this is where the studio bullshit starts to creep in, as just one more movie apparently wasn't good enough for them. This is where we get into all the, hey, we're doing another goddamn cinematic universe bullshit that people were absolutely right to complain about. And had they left this garbage out of the film, the ending would have been far better. I mean, so what if Peter decides to be Spider-Man again and defeats a guy in a dumbass power armor suit? It's Gwen's untimely death that this should have ended on. Nevertheless, the stellar ending and other parts like it really made me have a fondness for this, and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a movie that I still enjoy despite how flawed it is. Like I said, this wasn't a great film. There was nothing about this that made me go, oh my god, so good, have to see this again. No. The movie is good in many areas, but nothing special. Enjoyable yet average, but also not anywhere near terrible. The film has two basic flaws that I can see. It's overstuffed, and it's a bit fragmented. Neither of which, to me, is a capital offense. The worst thing this movie did is try to cram another cinematic universe down our throat, but again, they only did this at the end. It wasn't at the expense of the film itself. I truly believe that if all the cinematic universe plans were left out of this one, it would have had just as lukewarm a reception as the first Amazing Spider-Man did. So am I sorry that this marks the end of this particular franchise? Absolutely not. First, because the film is pretty self-contained and can still be enjoyed without the prospect of any more sequels, and second, because the studio brought this on themselves. I like the film just fine, but if they're going to be arrogant enough to try to construct a whole cinematic universe on the back of an average film and just assume the audience is going to be there for it, this is what they get. In any case, please don't take this review to be any kind of defense of the film. I can easily sympathize with the audience that can't look past its flaws. There are many. I think the film holds up pretty well despite them, but I encourage you to give the film another try and decide for yourself if any of what I said makes sense. The end.